For a heartbeat, she didn't answer. Then she said, "I'm just tired. Work, life, everything." He wanted to believe her, but her eyes betrayed the truth. There was distance, a subtle detachment, something that had begun months ago and now could no longer be ignored. That evening, Lena met Nathan again at his downtown office. He greeted her with a warm smile, a subtle shift in demeanor that suggested familiarity, comfort, and control. "You seem distracted," he said, noticing the tension in her shoulders. "I'm just tired," she said, echoing the same excuse she had given Ethan. Nathan's eyes softened, almost imperceptibly. "You deserve more than fatigue, Lena. You deserve someone who sees you, who values you." She swallowed hard, the words hitting a nerve she didn't want to acknowledge. Ethan saw her, but not like Nathan did. She felt recognized, validated. An intoxicating feeling she hadn't realized she craved so urgently. They spoke for hours, discussing gallery events, art projects, the subtle politics of the foundation. Nathan asked questions that required thought, attention, nuance, things Ethan hadn't offered in months. And when he complimented her taste, her perspective, her vision, Lena felt a warmth she hadn't felt in years. By the time she left, night had fallen. Snow coated the streets, making the town look serene and quiet. But Lena felt a storm inside her chest. She knew she was crossing lines, inch by inch. And yet she couldn't stop. Meanwhile, Ethan's unease had grown into something more insistent. He noticed small things, the lingering scent of cologne, the quiet deletion of messages, the way her laughter now sounded practiced and distant. He began checking the mail and notices more closely, noting inconsistencies in bills and receipts. One evening, he found a credit card statement he hadn't seen before, one with a charge at a downtown art supply store. Curious, he asked Lena casually. One evening, he returned from a gallery visit in Boston with news of a potential commission. Lena was gone. The house smelled faintly of the same perfume Nathan wore. Panic rose, tight and sudden. He searched through her emails, hesitated over her laptop, then stepped back. He couldn't invade that world, not yet. He sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the space she had left behind. The weight of suspicion pressed down on him, heavier than any unpaid bill. By the end of December, the tension between them had become a silent routine. They shared a home, meals and obligations, but the emotional intimacy had frayed completely. Nathan's presence loomed larger with each encounter, more than a shadow in her mind. Lena began to understand, faintly, that the comfort he offered was conditional. It existed as long as she needed validation, guidance, or escape. She felt it. A cold recognition. Yet she didn't stop. And Ethan, meanwhile, painted faces dissolving into darkness, reaching for connection that no longer existed in his own home. Part 2, Segment 2. January arrived with brittle winds that rattled window panes and coated the streets in frost. Inside the Sutherland home, the cold seemed to seep into the corners of every conversation, every glance. Ethan sat at the kitchen table one morning, a half-empty mug of coffee growing cold in front of him. He watched Lena scroll through her phone, thumb moving quickly over messages he couldn't read. He knew, without knowing, that Nathan's name lingered in those silent notifications, like smoke rising from a hidden fire. "Lena," he said carefully, his voice almost soft, "can we talk?" She looked up, her expression carefully neutral. "About what?" "About us," he said. He could feel the awkward weight of the words, the way they trembled as they left his mouth. Lena's gaze dropped. "Ethan, just be honest with me," he interrupted, leaning forward. I feel like you're somewhere else. Like you're not here with me." After dinner, he excused himself and went back to the studio. The brushes felt alien in his hands, the colors smeared and stubborn. He paused in front of the canvas and ran his fingers through his hair. A thought nagged him, small, insistent. She's changed. He remembered the way her phone always stayed closer than usual, the way her eyes darted at unexpected notifications, the faint scent of someone else lingering in the fabric of her coat. He hated himself for noticing, but he couldn't unsee it. Later that week, Lena met Nathan at a small cafe near the river. He was waiting at their usual corner table, the seat opposite him empty, but for his notebook. "You seem tense," he said. "Stress from home?" She laughed nervously. "Nothing that can't be managed." Nathan leaned back, folding his hands. You know, you don't have to justify yourself to me. The casual confidence in his voice was disarming. He offered support, attention, validation. All the things she hadn't realized she craved for months. Lena sipped her coffee and felt the weight of her choices pressing against her chest. She tried to remember Ethan. The man who struggled to keep their lives afloat, who painted tirelessly while the world ignored him. She tried to remind herself that Nathan was the intruder, the temptation, the easy relief from a slow, suffocating despair. Yet when Nathan reached across the table, brushing her hand with the gentlest of touches, the reminder faltered. Don't fight what you feel, he murmured. Life is too short for compromises that leave you invisible. And for the first time in weeks, Lena believed him. Meanwhile, Ethan noticed subtle changes in his own routine. Mail left unopened, small inconsistencies in her stories, lingering fragrances. He tried to confront her, but each question was met with half-truths or a practiced sigh that left him unsure. She smiled faintly, brushed his arm, and went upstairs. Ethan watched her go, the smell of unfamiliar cologne faintly trailing behind her. He sat back down, the pencil trembling between his fingers. On the sketchpad lay a rough outline of a woman, her face half erased, half redrawn. He looked at it for a long time before tearing the page out and crumpling it. Somewhere between love and loneliness, he realized truth had started to rot. Part 2, Segment 1. December arrived with sharp winds that rattled the windows and left the town streets slick with ice. Inside the Sutherland home, warmth persisted only in appearances. The little Christmas tree in the corner cast soft shadows across the living room. But the smiles it provoked were hollow. Ethan had started waking earlier, pacing the studio before Lena stirred. He painted constantly, almost desperately, trying to fill the silence that had grown between them like frost creeping over glass. His latest pieces were darker, more fragmented. Faces dissolving into shadow, hands reaching for something unseen. Lena noticed the change, but said nothing. She had her own mornings with Nathan. Long phone calls that she kept brief with Ethan. Work-related texts she deleted later. Small excuses she whispered before leaving the house. It was a Tuesday when Ethan first noticed the shift. Lena returned home, her coat smelling faintly of expensive cologne, different from Nathan's usual scent, and her laughter a fraction too light. She dropped her bag and kissed him on the cheek, and he felt the distance in her lips, the careful avoidance of closeness. "Dinner's almost ready," she said brightly. Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he looked at her as though trying to find the woman he had married in the way she moved. The way her eyes caught the light, the way she used to smile when she believed in him. "What's wrong?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Nothing," he said, but the word tasted bitter. "I might have something for you," Richard said. "A commission, private collector in Boston. Wants an original piece for spring." Ethan's chest tightened. "That's God, Richard. That's incredible." "It's not a fortune," Richard warned. "But it's a start." When he hung up, Ethan turned to Lena, smiling for the first time in weeks. "See, maybe things are changing." She smiled back, but her eyes didn't meet his. "That's wonderful, Ethan." Yet even as she said it, her phone vibrated in her pocket. She ignored it, but the glow of the screen felt like a secret between them. The next afternoon, Lena met Nathan again, this time at his downtown office, where modern art prints covered the walls. He poured coffee, asked about her week, complimented her dress. The routine had become familiar, intoxicating in its simplicity. "Tell me something," he said, leaning against the desk. "Why stay with him if he's the anchor pulling you under?" She stared at him, startled. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" His tone softened. "You're smart, talented, beautiful. You could do anything, go anywhere. But you're wasting yourself on someone who paints dreams he can't sell." Lena swallowed hard. "He's trying." Nathan smiled. "So are children when they build castles in sand." She should have walked away. Instead, she let him touch her face, his thumb brushing her lower lip. Her heart pounded with confusion. Part guilt, part hunger for something she couldn't name. When she finally left, snow was falling again, thicker this time. She walked home slowly, the flakes melting on her cheeks like small, cold truths. Ethan was still awake when she arrived, sketching at the table. "You're freezing," he said, standing to take her coat. "I'm fine," she murmured. He studied her face. Something in her eyes was distant, unfocused. He wanted to ask where she'd been, but the question felt heavy, dangerous. So instead he just said, "I missed you tonight." He told himself she was busy with her new consulting project. Though every time she left, her perfume lingered longer than the truth. One evening he found himself standing by the window, waiting for the familiar sound of her car in the driveway. When it finally came, headlights sweeping across the front porch, relief washed through him. Then quickly curdled when she stepped inside laughing at something still ringing from her phone. He forced a smile. "Late night again?" "Meetings," she said, hanging her coat. "Nathan thinks the foundation could host a winter show. He wants me to help with the curation." Nathan. The name had become a constant echo, threaded casually into every conversation like a seed of inevitability. "That's great," Ethan said carefully. "Does it pay?" Lena hesitated. "It might eventually. Right now it's volunteer work, networking, exposure." Ethan's jaw tightened. Exposure. The same word galleries had used to underpay him for years. "Lena, we can't keep working for free," he said. "We're drowning." Her expression softened, but only slightly. "You always see it as drowning, Ethan. Maybe it's surviving. Maybe it's waiting for the tide to turn." He wanted to believe her. Instead, he just nodded and walked past her to the studio. When the door closed behind him, Lena exhaled. Her phone buzzed again. "Nathan, you handled that well. Proud of you." Her fingers hovered over the screen. She typed, "Don't text me tonight." Then deleted it, replaced it with "thanks." 2 weeks later, the first snow arrived, a quiet, slow-falling kind that muffled the town in white. Ethan and Lena decorated a small Christmas tree together, a ritual they'd kept even in hard times. But the warmth that used to live in their laughter was gone. Now it was just two people rehearsing a memory. Halfway through stringing the lights, Ethan's phone rang. It was Richard, the gallery owner. He told himself she was busy with her new consulting project. Though every time she left, her perfume lingered longer than the truth. One evening he found himself standing by the window, waiting for the familiar sound of her car in the driveway. When it finally came, headlights sweeping across the front porch, relief washed through him. Then quickly curdled when she stepped inside laughing at something still ringing from her phone. He forced a smile. "Late night again?" "Meetings," she said, hanging her coat. "Nathan thinks the foundation could host a winter show. He wants me to help with the curation." Nathan. The name had become a constant echo, threaded casually into every conversation like a seed of inevitability. "That's great," Ethan said carefully. "Does it pay?" Lena hesitated. "It might eventually. Right now it's volunteer work, networking, exposure." Ethan's jaw tightened. Exposure. The same word galleries had used to underpay him for years. "Lena, we can't keep working for free," he said. "We're drowning." Her expression softened, but only slightly. "You always see it as drowning, Ethan. Maybe it's surviving. Maybe it's waiting for the tide to turn." He wanted to believe her. Instead, he just nodded and walked past her to the studio. When the door closed behind him, Lena exhaled. Her phone buzzed again. "Nathan, you handled that well. Proud of you." Her fingers hovered over the screen. She typed, "Don't text me tonight." Then deleted it, replaced it with "thanks." 2 weeks later, the first snow arrived, a quiet, slow-falling kind that muffled the town in white. Ethan and Lena decorated a small Christmas tree together, a ritual they'd kept even in hard times. But the warmth that used to live in their laughter was gone. Now it was just two people rehearsing a memory. Halfway through stringing the lights, Ethan's phone rang. It was Richard, the gallery owner. By the time she returned home, the lights were off. Ethan's studio door was closed, a faint smell of turpentine drifting through the hall. She undressed quietly, slid into bed, and stared at the ceiling until dawn crept in again.